welcome to How We Met. I'm Sheryl Strich, and every month I get to interview couples who tell their story about how they met. We have a special couple today. Although they don't live in Laguna Woods, they've been a part of our community for 43 years. Rob Merritt was the broadcaster and news director on Channel 6 for 43 years. So Leisure World, now Laguna Woods, was a part of their lives for more years than probably anyone living here. He started at Channel 6 in its infancy and oversaw many changes here in the village and at the station. And while Rob was here at Channel 6, Carolyn was teaching special ed at University High School in Irvine. Side note, both my kids went to uni. Go Trojans.
Yes.
Welcome. I'm so glad you could come on.
Thank you.
It was so exciting when I met you at the History Center,
Yes.
and I really wanted you guys to come on the show. So,
Thank you for having us.
so here we go.
Okay.
I always ask three questions, but since you don't live here, I want to ask the third question.
Okay.
Where are you from?
Me first?
You first.
Well, I grew up in San Gabriel, California, and then moved to Fullerton, California, and finished my growing up years there.
Okay. And then you came to Irvine.
Irvine, yes.
All right.
After we married, yes.
And how about you, Rob?
Same thing, although we didn't know each other in San Gabriel, we went to different elementary schools. We were that far apart.
Okay.
And then moved to Fullerton as well. Lots of families moved to Orange County because that was going to be the big job thing in the 50s. So we moved in the 50s and met in high school.
Oh, so you met in high school?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
In the lunchroom.
In the lunchroom. How long have you been a couple?
Since probably freshman year of college.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
my
you went-
freshman year,
Oh,
his
oh.
sophomore year.
Okay. Okay. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a funny feeling the how we met part is going to be, we've already almost covered it, but how'd you meet?
We met in the lunchroom, the cafeteria at Sunny Hills High School in Fullerton. And I had friends that sat at the same table that he sat at, so I got acquainted with him probably my sophomore year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was a friend, and we actually double dated with my best friend and his best friend who were dating. So we kind of knew each other, and things got a little more serious after we graduated.
And
Well, yeah, that's part of the story, but yeah. So I was in Cal State Fullerton,
right.
and some classes I really liked and did really well at, others not so much. Foreign language is not my thing.
Right.
I was failing French, so they said, get a tutor. So I found a tutor who was another student and lived about 2 blocks from where Carolyn lived.
Right.
So I was going there. Didn't help me. I still failed the class. But
Wait. Were you guys living in the dorm or were you living at home?
I was living at home in Sunny
I
Hills.
I went to Whittier,
went
and
to-
I was
Okay.
in dorm.
Okay.
So I was going to the tutor, and my mom said, "You know that nice Carolyn that you used to know from high school? Doesn't she live in that area? You should go look her up." I go, "Oh, okay." Went and did my French thing, which was a waste of time and money. And then I went over to Carolyn's house, and she wasn't there, but her mom was there, and she said, "Oh, well, she's not out. She's out right now, but come back or call back or something like that." So that was the beginning of that.
Right. So you called back?
Yeah.
Were you
Probably showed up. I don't know.
Were you
Yeah.
surprised?
No, I mean, I just thought it was great to see him, because we had been pretty good friends in high school, and were involved in a lot of the same activities and whatnot at school. So
She used to give me advice on this other girl. Like long.
In high
yes,
school.
what
Yeah.
you should do
Yeah.
is
And that person we're still in contact with. We don't see her very often, but she's still in Southern California.
I was going to say, me telling you what to do hasn't changed much either.
Well, so the advice that you gave him, does that work for Carolyn?
She gives me advice, and I try to be polite and try to be pleasant and go,
I think she wants to know if you're listening and put it into action.
"Oh, well, I hear you." Sometimes I do, not all the time.
So then you became a couple right away.
We did.
Well, more or less.
Yes, we did.
Started going out at Christmas time. I remember going to a family event with her family, and
We jumped right into the meet the family
the
thing.
family thing. Yeah, well, of course, I knew her mom already because I'd been over there several times. So it was interesting, but yeah. And then we ended up here, more or less.
So how soon did you get married?
We were, let's see, it was 1968, so I was 3 years out of high school,
Okay.
and he was 4.
You were still in college.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And I know you finished
Yes.
because you were a teacher at uni.
And I was still at Cal State Fullerton,
Yeah,
Oh.
trying to
okay.
figure out what I wanted to do.
Okay.
yeah,
All right. So you were both in school
yeah.
when you got married.
Yes, I took a break
Okay.
to go to work to support him, to get him through college, and so
Right.
he graduated first,
Okay.
and then we just kind of moved along. We moved to Irvine. We lived in Tustin.
Lived in
we,
La Habra first,
La Habra,
and then Tustin,
Right.
and then
we
moved to Irvine
bought
in
a house
'71.
in Irvine.
Okay, so you're now in Cal State Fullerton, and you decided to go into broadcasting?
Yeah,
That was your
I
major?
finally figured out communications was something I could probably do.
Yeah.
No foreign language required, so that was a plus. And they had a requirement, they still do, I guess, for internship.
Right.
And so I ended up down here in what was the old administration building and at the studio at that time.
Okay, so just to go backwards for a minute.
Yeah.
So here you are, you've taken a break from school, and you're working
Yes,
to support him
Yes.
in college.
yes.
And what did you think about him having that kind of a major?
Oh, I thought it
that-
was perfect for him
Oh, okay.
because he is a talker, so it was great. I mean, I knew he would do really well.
Okay, all right.
No doubt there.
Okay, so you got an internship. Where did you get your internship?
Channel 6, which is now Village TV.
Right. So you came into Channel 6 doing what?
Anything they needed. I was, camera,
Wait, hold on a second. When you came into Channel 6, what did it look like?
much smaller. It was in the old administration building, which is no longer there. And it was the actual room where people had originally picked out their carpeting and their drapes. So it had a carpeted floor and drapes on the wall and 2 black and white cameras and a very rudimentary control room and some rather unmotivated, underpaid staff people.
So when you came along, did they say, aha, we have somebody who can do the work?
Yeah, they just kind of said, who are you and why are you here and what
Right.
can we do for you? And
Right.
sure, why not?
Right.
Extra pair of hands to move
Right.
things, basically.
So how long was your internship?
Internship was till the end of the semester, so that would have been I graduated in June of '69, so that would have been that semester, that, January to May, I guess.
Okay.
And then got hired
Okay.
by the company that had the contract at that time.
Okay, so it wasn't owned by PCM at that by
No, it was actually owned by, the studio was owned by what was called the Leisure World Foundation.
Okay.
Not to be confused with your current Leisure World Foundation.
Okay.
And that was under the management company that eventually became Professional Community Management.
Oh, okay.
But they owned the facility, and then the studio was being run at that time by an outside production company called Cablecasters.
Okay. So who were you hired by?
Cablecasters for
Okay.
6 months.
Okay.
And then our Thanksgiving surprise was a letter taped to the office door that said, "We no longer need you as of December 31st. Have a good life." Didn't say have a good life. But
And you
yeah.
had been working here for 6 months?
6 months, yeah. And then a friend of mine, George Phelps, who's a fellow at Cal State Fullerton, had also come on board.
Right.
So we were looking around going, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
So most of the rest of the staff disappeared. So there was George and myself and then the fellow that was the station manager.
Right.
And the 3 of us ran it for 70 and part of 71.
Okay. And then what happened?
Well, we added some more staff people.
Right.
The guy that was the station manager went away. And so there was George and myself, and then a third person, Carolyn Wood,
Yeah.
from Laguna Beach, came in. She was mainly had more of a business background, although she had done some television on Channel 13 back in the early days.
So who was the management company at this point?
Okay, at that point, we're working in '70, we went to work for a new company, new to us, called Rossmore Electric.
Okay.
Rossmore Electric had the contract to install and maintain the cable system
Okay.
under a contract with Cortese, and then a second contract with the community to keep it going.
Okay.
And they said, well, you guys know TV, why don't you just take over the TV station in '70? And the gentleman who owned the company said, I don't know anything about broadcasting. And they said, well, hire some of those kids that are there now. So we were the kids.
Wow. You really lucked out.
I guess.
Yeah.
In a way.
Well, I mean, I graduated in '73 from Syracuse with a degree in broadcasting, and there were no jobs.
Yeah, it's
It was tough. I would have loved to have had this job.
yeah. It was interesting. Again, we were still in black and white. We spent the Christmas vacation of '69 off the air rewiring the control room
Okay. And you were still over in that other building.
in the old administration building. Still in black and white.
Right.
Some of the equipment they kept. Some of they got a few new things. I was noticing on the way in, one of the lights hanging up on the wall is one of the lights I rewired more than once.
When you moved in here?
At the old studio.
Oh, at the old studio. Oh, so the same lights they brought over here.
It's a light that was in use here. It's no longer in use,
Right.
but yeah, it's a display thing now. But yeah, so it was very interesting.
I
Again,
could
black and white.
interject. I remember it was really very basic. There were like 2 cameras maybe and 3 lights. I
Right.
mean, it was nothing compared to what it is now.
Well, when you were there, that's
Yeah.
what it was like. Did
Yeah.
it didn't change until you moved over to here?
No, we changed quite a bit. In the middle '70s, we went to color.
Okay.
We ended up with 3 color cameras and a couple different versions of them.
Right.
And then we started doing the boardroom, covering the boardroom, and then they moved us in
When
here.
you covered the boardroom, now when they do it, it's off-site. When you did it, the cameras were in the boardroom?
Well, at first, we actually had to dismantle our studio, basically, take our 3 cameras, roll them over to the boardroom. They purchased extension cables up to the ceiling. We hooked up the cables, had to retime all 3 cameras, and then did the board meetings, and then took it all apart, put it back in the studio, and do our rest of our stuff. And then eventually they moved us over here,
Right.
and we did the same thing here.
Right.
And then they went ahead and had the money to put robotics in.
Right.
So now it's done robotically.
Right.
I love your description of somebody called it the MASH.
Yeah, a friend of
The
mine
MASH
who worked
of
at a
television.
UHF station, I brought him over for a
Right.
tour, and he said, I said, well, what'd you think? He said, oh, it's like the MASH of television stations. It's the basic. And I said, yeah, that's about it.
Right,
You know.
right. So you interviewed a lot of, I read about people that you've interviewed. What's the interview that stood out most in your mind?
Well, personal favorite of mine is race driver Dan Gurney.
Okay.
So I got to interview him a few times, and that was, for me, a personal thing. But the one that was, I guess, the funniest was Sonny Bono.
Oh, you interviewed Sonny Bono.
Yeah, now this was before he was in Congress.
Right.
He was running for the U.S. Senate seat,
Right.
which he didn't get.
Right.
But he came on, and I asked him a couple of questions, and at one point, he turned like this, looked at his staff person as if, now what do I say?
Oh.
So it was a question about the environment. He was down in Palm Springs,
Right.
so it was a question about the desert.
Right.
And I believe Dianne Feinstein was promoting a Desert Protection Act.
Okay.
And I said, "What's your thinking on that?" He didn't seem to know what that was. So
Awkward.
yeah.
Right. That's not something you could edit out.
No.
No. Well, back in those days, again, it was live. We might have been taping the news by then. We were taping it in the morning and then re-showing it in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. That was the other question I had. So you had only one hour of news? So you didn't have news in the morning and a different news in the afternoon?
12:30 was a replay.
Okay.
And then eventually, when we got up here, we started showing it in the evening as well.
How many hours was Channel 6 on?
We were on the air from 8. Well, we were on there 24 hours a day, finally up here, but
Right.
originally from 8 to about 2:33 in the afternoon, and then went to replays.
Okay.
Or now, and then we had a message board, and I think they still
Right.
run
They
something
still-
like
they
that
still
now.
have a
Yeah,
message board,
We
yeah.
used to have back in the black and white days. We had a thing that was called a weather scan. That was the official name of it,
Right.
and it was a big box with a bunch of weather dials on it, and a primary surface mirror, and then a camera that focused on the mirror, and the mirror had a motor. So it would scan the temperature and the time and the barometric pressure. And then over the years, those things started to fail.
Right.
Well, the company that made it was out of business.
Right.
So we started putting pictures in there. We ended up with like more pictures than dials eventually.
You do what you have to do.
You do what you have to do,
You do what
yeah.
you have to do with the budget that you have.
Well, as Rick Dees used to say, we have no budget. And we
Right.
really had no budget.
Right. Things are still pretty tight, I think, all throughout Laguna Woods.
It's amazing what people can do, though,
Yeah.
in a circumstance where they're trying to work toward a common goal and they
Right, as long as you can figure out how to replace a part that no longer is manufactured, your
It's
goal.
like, hold this light here.
Right, right, right.
Okay.
Right. Did Carolyn and the kids ever come on the show?
Both the boys came on. Another Rob Cromwell, was hosting some cooking shows. He was quite the home economist type of guy. And we had a sponsor that was into microwaves, which was relatively new in the 70s. And so he was doing some cooking segments with her or by himself. So both of our boys were on at different times. He did shows cooking for kids, basically. So that was interesting.
That was humorous.
Yeah. And then
Did you have to bribe them to behave?
I forget, but Mom was there giving him the eye. We brought him in. We brought him in one day. One of the early shows was a lady who started the Canine Club here.
Okay.
And she was a big animal lover. And there used to be Lion Country Safari in Irvine. So she got him to bring one of the tigers by one day.
I do have a question about that.
Two little boys were very excited to be this close to a
I
Bengal
do have a
tiger.
question.
Yes.
Was it this studio?
No, the old studio.
Okay, so what floor were you,
We were on the first floor. We were, if you can picture where the bocce courts is.
Yes.
If you turned around and faced what's now that San Sebastian project.
Yeah.
That's where our office was.
Right.
If we opened the window, we could, when we were in black and white, we could open the window.
Right.
With color cameras, there was shading issues and all. But if we opened the window, we could see the bocce courts and then Clubhouse 1.
Okay, so how did she get the Bengal tiger into the studio?
Well, there was a back door,
Okay,
and they would just walk right in the back door.
on a leash?
Yeah, a big leash, a very big leash.
I recall chains.
I think it was a chain, yeah, more of a chain, yeah.
Oh boy, how scary.
They
It was.
were-
We didn't move. We stood.
Were they
right.
sedated?
No,
I don't think so. Probably just old. I don't know. It was, but it was didn't do
it
anything.
was big, really big.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was. Do you
My kids were like,
Oh, they didn't move.
not a.
And then in subsequent years, we had up here we had the older one on. He's written several books,
Oh.
so we had him on talking about some of his books.
Oh my, okay. Yeah, I didn't mention that you have two kids.
Yeah.
And how soon did, okay, I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
1970.
Sorry. So how soon did the kids come along?
The year I was working he was finishing up school. Oops, hair,
By the way,
Yeah, by the way,
So was your,
now that you've graduated,
okay,
I'm
so your
going to
son
tell
did
you
not come to
about
your graduation.
no, well, I didn't even go. I was too busy working. In fact, the guy that was my coworker, George, he happened to be up in Fullerton. He picked up our diplomas and brought them back to the studio.
I guess what I meant was if you had gone
No.
to, okay, he
No.
wasn't there quite yet.
No,
Okay, all right,
we were living in
La Habra.
La Habra at that point. Yeah.
okay.
Right.
So then you went back to school when your son was just a baby.
No, I stayed home for a
Okay.
few years with the
Well, you
kids,
worked.
and that I did
bit.
work, but I was doing business stuff and
Okay.
other things, not working at uni.
You
No,
just
that
never
did-
expect it, you know?
No,
If you get white carpeting, you get pregnant right away.
I know. It's
plan
just
and
like,
plan.
and then one came,
Right.
and then it was like the next one came,
Right.
and then it was okay. Can we do this? Yes,
Yeah.
we can figure this out. So,
And you were
Yeah.
close enough that, you were both close enough to where the kids were that if anything happened, you were there.
Well,
Yes,
in
yes,
fact, the older one seemed to have a challenge figuring out how to wash clothes. So he would call his mother, who was in the classroom, and say, "Now tell me again, how do I do this, that, and the other?" And
No, one
about
of
the
the
third phone
aides-
call was like, "Come on."
the aide would come and get me and said, "There's an emergency. Your son's on the call."
Yeah.
And the third time that happened, it took me a little minute to figure out. He just, he wanted me to do it.
He learned early, eh?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, as did his brother. It was, no.
But his brother now really does the laundry at home
Yes,
in Colorado. So.
yes.
They always surprise you.
Yeah.
I have another question for you back to the studio.
Sure.
So everything was live at that point, correct? What interviews were live?
Well, when we got up, by the time we got up here, we actually had recording devices. And so we started taping things and playing them back. And so everything was, the live originally, but then everything was replayed.
So today, you can have an interview with somebody via Zoom.
Right.
You didn't have that
We
option.
didn't have that. In fact, the one sort of like an interview we did. We had John Dean from the Watergate issue was going to be speaking to a club here.
Oh, really?
And so we did a phone interview with him.
Okay.
And so we had a split screen set up with me on one side live and then a picture of him on the other
Right.
and on the phone. So we
Right.
did that. That was probably the most ambitious of that kinds of thing we could do back then.
Right.
Now you've got the internet and all kinds of easy ways to, of course, during the pandemic, a lot of people were doing their shows from home. Even the
Right.
people on the air, Today's
Right.
Show was doing their show
Right.
from home.
Right, right. Yeah, but I know what you're talking about because that was how it was done then,
Right.
not just here. It was
Right,
done all
right.
over the place. You were here for some really interesting times. You were here for when Laguna Leisure World became Laguna Woods.
Right.
What was that? What was your part in that?
Well, we covered it and had people on. Most of the leadership of the community was for it. There were a few people that were against it. We covered the actual cityhood election live that night, and that was in the old building. And as I related at my talk the other day, we could hear the directors who had been promoting the cityhood hollering down the hall when the final ballots were tabulated. They barely made it. It was a pretty close election.
Oh, really? They barely made it?
But yeah, they did make it.
Okay.
And so they were actually counting the ballots in the old boardroom
Right.
and down the hall from the studio. So we covered that. And then Laguna Woods, of course, getting their new facility, that was something we covered. Some of the floods we covered, the El Nino.
Right. How did you do that? How did you cover that stuff?
Basically just rip and read. It was like, hey, this is what's going on. If you want to see aerial footage, watch the ABC channels
So
or
you
whatever.
weren't going out of the studio?
We did go a little bit and shoot a little bit of footage out there. It was hard to do because we only had a staff of 3 or 4 people at that point,
Right,
so it was hard to
right,
do. But
right.
did a little bit of that. A couple of times they did it from the head-in facility up on the hill,
Okay.
and they actually could show the fires in LA and in San Diego.
Okay.
That was several years ago.
Right.
And
A
then
few
during,
times you came in on the weekends.
well, during the El Nino, yeah,
yourself-
Paul
put
and I
yourself
came in a
on
couple
the air.
different times and just to turn everything on in case the boardroom wanted to be
Oh,
go live.
right.
They didn't, but security was here, and I was on the phone talking to the fire department. The first of the El Nino days that I drove down here at an ungodly time of the morning in the dark, the freeway was getting really rained on.
Right.
And I got on the phone with one of the fire information guys, and he would live down here and was
Right.
going up to Orange to their office, and he said, I had to stop twice and rescue people cars were floating
Oh, God.
at that time. So that's how much rain we had.
Right, right.
We almost lost at that time our director of landscaping. There was a drain up near gate 3
Right.
that had gotten clogged up with leaves.
Right. Oh.
And so they got the crew out there and pulled the cover off so that water could drain, and he got pulled in up to his waist. 2 big guys grabbed him. Otherwise, he would have gone to Laguna.
Speaking of Laguna, were you here for the fires in '94?
We were, and again, we did a little bit of coverage on that. One of our staff members lived in Laguna.
Right.
So she had a bird's eye view. Her house didn't burn, but it was some of her neighbors did.
Right.
So that, and then we went over there and did a few pictures of that, and some coverage, not a lot. Again, you had your big LA stations.
Right.
We did have the highway patrol on at that time. Once a week, we would have a guest on from the San Juan office of the highway patrol, and one of the officers there had been the driver for the governor
Oh.
when he was down here seeing the fire scene.
Okay.
And of course, he was concentrating on driving and doing everything correctly. And the governor is asking him questions, and he's like not responding. And the
Right.
guy's going, "Hello, officer, hello, hello." He finally had to tap him on the shoulder to get him to talk. But
Right, right.
I was trying to be,
Yeah.
not my place.
Right,
Here's my
right.
boss sitting right next to me, and then the governor in the back seat.
And he wanted to talk to the driver. Great.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You were also here for the when the Marine base closed.
We were. We had gone over there several times and visited. In fact, we got a rather scary ride in a big helicopter one day that they took us so we get to shoot some aerial footage of the community. Had a good relationship with the base. In fact, for a while, we had a couple of young men on who were reporters and would do a little report each week
Right.
from the base.
From the
what was going
base,
on. Yeah.
okay.
And then the base finally closed, and that was very political because
It was very political.
well, in fact, the fellow that was our congressman at that time, Christopher Cox,
Right.
his quote was, well, best use, whatever the best use is for that property. Well, the people in Newport Beach thought the best use would be an international airport.
Right.
And the people in Irvine and Laguna Hills said, no, we don't think that's the best use.
Right.
So the community here actually got involved in politics
Right.
and gave money and worked for one of the candidates running for the County Board of Supervisors in Fullerton. There was a election coming up,
Right.
and they got somebody elected who was anti-airport. The previous person in that position was pro-airport. And so they actually helped get the person elected that was the final third vote on the County Board of Supervisors to stop it being made into a commercial airport.
Wow. Wow. I lived through that history, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know all the
It was
intricacies.
amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what got them involved in politics.
Right.
And then they said, we don't really have much clout back in Washington. You go back to meet with the congressman and you get some third stage
Right.
flunky, basically. So, but you say I'm a homeowners association, but if you say I'm a city manager or a
Right,
mayor,
right.
you get to talk to the congressman.
And so that's when
That was the
idea-
motivation for cityhood.
Okay.
Really.
All right. Phew. Wow.
Close call.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I got the 2-minute warning, but what other famous people did you interview? I know you interviewed Barbara Rush because she.
Barbara Rush, who used to live
yeah.
here. I mentioned Dan Gurney.
Yeah.
We
Dale
had
Evans.
we had Dale Evans on. We had
Did she come with her horse?
no. She got to ride in the stagecoach though.
Oh, okay.
We
With
had
our son.
with her son?
Yeah,
Oh.
Our son.
Oh, with
with our
yours?
younger
Oh.
son. We had S.I. Hayakawa on back in the
okay.
day, and so I used to wear a tam in those days. So I have a picture of he and I with our tams on. And we had John Schmitz on, who was the congressman who was somewhat controversial.
Okay.
He's the one that said, when asked the question at the Republican Club here, what do you think of President Nixon going to China? He said, I don't have a problem with him going, I just have a problem with him coming home.
Right.
He was no longer our congressman at the next election. But those are the kind of people we had on. And then all the board members, all the
Right,
board presidents,
right,
club presidents, Congressman Campbell was the most recent, the last one I did.
Right.
Mimi Waters a couple of times,
Right,
but
right.
primarily John.
Right.
Cloris Leachman.
We had Cloris Leachman on, who just had to swear at least once on the air, she
Right,
said,
right.
and did her own makeup. She sat out here in the hall and did her own makeup, which I thought was
okay,
interesting. So
yeah.
she was. Dean Torrance, if you're familiar with 60s rock and roll,
Okay.
Shannon Dean
Oh, yes,
Torrance
yes,
was on.
yes.
And he was very nice, good guy.
We're probably out of time, but how did you get these people?
In some cases, they were appearing here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Glenn Yarborough was
Okay,
here.
okay.
He was doing a concert as a favor to his mother-in-law.
Okay.
And this lady is a big fan of his, so brought in a record album for him to sign for her, which our younger son now has.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the kind of people. A lot of times were people that were performing here.
Okay. All right.
you
We
know,
don't
yes.
do that anymore. So that's kind of an interesting way
Yeah,
things were
yeah,
done then.
yeah.
I have to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on. This was
you.
great.
You're welcome.
It was
Was
really
fun.
lovely.
A reversal for me.
I know. I had to tell you where to sit. Anyway, thank you very much.
You're
This
welcome.
is really nice.
Thank you
This
for
was fun.
having us.
If you'd like to come on to the show, email us at lwvcouples@gmail.com. Include your name, phone number, and email address, and brief description of your story.